Take 3, clapper दे देते हैं.
Picture perfect, you don't need no filter. God, just make them drop that you're my killer. Shower you with all my attention. Yeah, these are my only intentions. Stay in the kitchen cooking up, cut your own bread. Heart full of equity, honest that. Make sure that you don't need no mentions. Yeah, these are my only intentions.
Hi guys, welcome back to the One Take Show podcast. My name is Kaustubh. Joining me in this conversation is a dear friend of mine, Mr. Tanish Bansal. There are two very special things about this podcast. First, that Tanish works in filmmaking. He's been working with Dharma Productions and he is also exploring various possibilities in that particular creative area. Also to understand that we are sitting here in the town of Mussoorie, enjoying this amazing view that I have right now, which I'll be showing it to you guys very soon. But let's listen to Tanish. Tanish, tell me a little bit about yourself. What helped you get where you are right now, and what exactly is your profile?
Okay, so
Hold this.
I was fairly convinced at the age of 13 that I want to be a filmmaker, and that led to me going to film school in Bombay. There's a film school called Whistling Woods International. I studied film producing there, and after that I got internship in bunch of ad production house until I landed a job in Dharma Productions. I worked on films like Bhoot by Vicky Kaushal, Gunjan Saxena, this recent Janhvi Kapoor film, and I've been working on Dostana 2, which has a cast of Kartik Aaryan, Janhvi Kapoor, and a new actor, Lalchandani. And so far, we've shot around 40% of the film. We shot in Chandigarh, Patiala, and in Bombay. Because of whole COVID and the lockdown situation, it's on a little hold right now, but that's what I've been. And I'm a screenwriter as well. I'm a member of Screenwriters Association. I've also managed to write my first feature film screenplay, and let's see if I'm able to make it a film someday.
Perfect. So what I really am rather curious about is that this is a very interesting, sort of a daunting field to get into. I know that your elder brother is also already working in some of the most exciting fields. He works with EA Sports as of this moment as we speak. And all those FIFA fans right there, I don't care for you. I'm a PES fan. It's okay. But the fun part is, Tanish, so when you talk about this entire process, this industry that you're working in,
Yeah.
what exactly is your job profile and what exactly is it that you do? And what is your area of engagement? As in, are you the assistant director? Are you working in the post-production or the production, or what exactly, how does it work?
Okay, so filmmaking is, there's a lot of last minute cancellation, there's the whole universe conspires for you to not to make the film, but you do it anyway just for the love of it. As a film producer, I joined as a production intern and worked my way up to production coordinator. So what a producer does is he produces the capital for the film, the human resource, the location, the actors, the vanity, the food, the everything requirement to make a film. Since I've been working in-house in Dharma Productions, so they have a very selective process of script selection. And what my job particularly is, after the whole budget of the film is logged, we turn all that dialogue into action. We book the locations. We go to the auditions for the actors. We go to the dance rehearsals. Since it's a Dharma film, so there's always dance rehearsals. And yeah, and so, we divide the whole film in the shoot schedule. For Dostana 2, for reference, we divided into Chandigarh schedule, Patiala schedule, and Bombay schedule. And that's it. You plan it, you strategize, and you make sure it gets done.
Perfect.
You don't take no for an answer. If there's any stopping on the set, if there's any limitation in the resources, you make sure it gets fulfilled.
Perfect. So when you talk about this entire course that you have adopted to, one question that would come into the mind of any person who's perhaps trying to explore this industry is how to start. So you've had a particular university that you applied to. You've now graduated from that university.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that application process and how to choose or pick a university, or what are the options available, and a little bit about how the school works and what exactly is the environment there, what is the work culture there.
Okay, so there are film schools all around the world, and the idea of going to film school to learn filmmaking is not new. There are film schools which are 150 years old, so mostly in Western Europe and Southern Europe. For my film school, it is affiliated under Tata Institute of Social Science. It's a 3 year course, and after your first foundation year, you choose a field of specialization. There are various fields like producing, directing, cinematography, editing. I opted for two of the most competitive ones, which are directing and producing. I got into both of them, but I chose producing.
Okay.
Film school is a very fun place because you get people from whole sections of society, people from all corner of the world coming together, working as a team to make a film. You learn resource management, you learn time management, human index management, and most importantly, financial management. There is no art without commerce. One thing which film school has also taught me how to be real in the world of filmmaking. If you have an idea and you believe it can turn into a very compelling story and you're highly motivated to tell it, in any format, on a music video or a film or a comic sketch or a podcast for now, you make sure you get the right people on board and you work with the right crew, people who are in your sensibility. Another thing, there's actually filmmaking can be divided into two formats. There's film form and there's film sense. Film form is learning the technical aspects, which is how to operate the camera, how to do the editing. But film sense is understanding what kind of film is something people would want to see. So that has been a huge learning at a film school. You meet people from the industry, from the Hindi film industry, from independent film industry. You interact with them, you learn from them, you grow. You grow as an artist, you grow as a filmmaker.
Perfect. As we speak, हमारा खाना आ चुका है. We have momos here and chili chicken, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, when you talk about this entire exposure that you get in the sort of the school that you go to and the kind of people you meet, how exactly do you explore employability? Like with respect to you graduating from the college and then finding jobs with studio houses, or do you intern? Do you find mentors? How does that work out for you?
Okay, so competition is stiff because a creative field like filmmaking, there are people who, after they finish their jobs, or even married people, or even people with kids who want to get into filmmaking. So there's whole bunch of people who want to work for the same job, and in a country like ours, there are people who are willing to work for free. So that's a tough competition ahead.
You have free interns as well?
I have worked for free. I have free interns under me, and the ad production houses which I work for, luckily I've always managed to get paid for my work. Dharma pays really well, and the employability, it's not a regular job. You get hired on the basis of projects. Even if you're in the middle of a project and you get a better opportunity somewhere else, you can always go for it.
Okay.
And film making, since it's the hub is in Bombay, so you have to find a way so that you pay the rent in Bombay, you live in Bombay, at least you can be on your own. And as a you have to struggle, everyone struggle in their beginning years, so it's a pretty tough nut to crack, but it's not an impossible job to do.
Okay, perfect. So now that we know that this industry is quite very difficult, it would be interesting to know from your perspective that quite recently the entire film industry has gone through some really monumental ups and downs. We've seen some of the largest production houses perhaps not doing the kind of business that they used to do. The recent events that have happened in our country have somehow changed all of that. But okay, we'll get to that question in a bit. Rather contextual question to you is that how do you see this entire cinematic background evolving in India? Like with respect to how movies are being made, how cinema is being constructed, how people are receiving perhaps on OTT platforms or cinema, all of that. So what do you think about that? What's your perspective on that?
Okay, so for a cinephile like me, nothing beats a theatrical experience. COVID-19 has obviously turned down the theaters, the moviegoers, and with the whole OTT and digital platform coming in, obviously there's less footfall in theaters now. But the experience of watching films in a 70 screen or in a Dolby 11.1 stereo, nothing can compete to that. OTT is obviously a better experimental platform for content creators, for movie makers. There's a whole lot of audience which comes to. You can always choose the films you want to watch or the TV shows you want to watch. As compared to the films, it's obviously cheaper than going to a theater. Uh, but I think they both will work parallelly, theatrical and digital experience, because they both have their charm. And if you're a buff, if you're a movie buff, you'll go and watch a film in theater when they're open and functioning up and running again. Uh, New platforms coming in gives more career opportunity, so there's obviously more scope in this field. There's new projects getting funded every day. Like Netflix is just picking up anything these days, and so there's more field, there's more people, there's more capital coming in. So obviously there's more potential for new artists, new writers to come into. Filmmaking is not, if you look it as a career option, as what Martin Scorsese says, it's not a job for you. But if you have a story which you truly want to tell and you're very passionate about it, you will find a way, whether digital or theatrical or you know
Okay.
the production part, the business part of the film is, once the film is produced, it is sold on various platforms. Like there are distributors which get your film to theaters. These are called, the theaters are called exhibitors. There's a sales agent who take your films to the festivals, film festivals abroad and in India, and who take it to, and who sell the rights for digital or airborne or satellite rights, and there's a whole business attached to it.
Okay.
That's how the film business works.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I think we were having a conversation previously, and I think that is the exact question that comes here. Is you told me that it's really difficult for people to break into the scene because certain people with certain capital investments can always carry their projects to perhaps film festivals and can embark on it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the real struggle of the people who perhaps do not come from this industry, or let's say the qualms of the N word, the nepotism,
Yeah.
how does that work out? Like what is the reality when, like, from a third person perspective? I think it is something that is similar in almost every other profession. So is similar in legal profession or the other profession. Or what is the reality in your profession? How does it really pan out here?
The whole nepotism debate has been an eye-opener to the people in the industry and outside.
Okay.
Since I mentioned it's a business, and if you have family and you have a running successful people, and people in your family want to come and work with you, you'll any day prefer them because that's family. But if you're really professional about your job and you just want to get the top-notch people for everything, the people who bring out their A game, doesn't matter if they're family or doesn't matter if they're film school professional or even they never went to film school, you'll pick them. You'll pick them based on what they bring on the table, what their values are, what their capabilities are. It is difficult for the newcomer. I'm not gonna lie. I was a newcomer. It took me hard time to figure out the whole process. But like, I don't want to badmouth my job, but Dharma production is known for nepotism. Let's say it. But I don't blame the guy because his business, and he has investors coming in who funds his project. So if these investor brings new people and he's obliged to work with them, let it be then. So if tomorrow I'm running a successful business, and if I have a production house and my investors want certain people to work with me, and because they're passionate about it and they work equally hard, I don't mind bringing them on board, unless I find people exceptional whom I really want to work on with me on my project. I'm not justifying nepotism. It is a form of corruption, hands down it is. But there's a line, like, how do you draw? How do you tell ki if it's right guy to employ or not, right girl to employ or not?
Fair. With respect to all those film cities that you've been talking about, like those film cities that have that respective people with capital investment have access to it, and doesn't that create a rather toxic? Because I understand that for the successful people who've already made in the in the industry, it's always fun to have their stories being told to us.
Yeah.
Right. But for the unsuccessful people, how's that mental stress or that mental pressure on you, or that physical pressure on you, especially in times like COVID? How does that pressure pan out on you guys?
So it's any day difficult for underdogs in any business, any day. Pressure on newcomers on filmmaking, since it's becoming infinite. There's whole new people coming every day to join the film business, to work in art industry. And pressure is to actually, have a job which is replaceable, because film production is something, if you're good with money and people, and doesn't matter if you have a film degree, if let's say you're an MBA guy, or let's say you have a background of working in business, or even in your dad's business, and you can handle film and budget and money and people. So let's say you can do my job. But if you know when not to overspend on a shot, or when not to underspend on a scene, and you can tell this difference, that's what makes you irreplaceable in this job. Imagine you book a location on a very high fee, and you go there and take very limited shots. That's just money waste, no matter what your director says, no matter if that's a very crucial part of the scene, because you're handling the crew, but you're handling the money as well.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Now, I think my last question to you would be, as I've been speaking to a lot of people, this is something that I've realized recently, and it is important that I speak about this with people from different varied backgrounds, and I think I've hinted this in my previous question as well. The question around mental health, and this is something I wanted to bring up because I think we've had a conversation about this. One thing that I particularly have felt is the destructive self-talk, like in what happens in law schools, or perhaps the competitive, as we believe that law is a very competitive field, we have a lot of destructive self-talk, the self-doubt, the toxic environment that we surround ourselves with, and we always have that. Do we also have that kind of a toxic environment in filmmaking or something, or like perhaps open-ended opportunities like YouTube, a site of relief for you guys, or does your work is perhaps comparatively easy, because there's a perception that if you're in a creative field, you're supposed to love your job. De facto, you're supposed to be in love with your job. This is a perception. How do you see this perception working out?
uh, so in a creative field, there's no sense of satisfaction whatsoever.
Okay.
No matter how good a job you do, you can always wish you can go back and do it better. Mental health, it of course, because it can take a toll on your health physically and mentally. No matter if you work day and night on a project and you're not satisfied with by the end of a day, there's no way you can do it again, because it's an expensive game. And maybe people who are working with you on your project are not that motivated, or maybe they don't show that enthusiasm the way you do, or maybe you don't show it the way people are doing, because maybe you're not highly passionate for the project you're working on. Initially I suffered it, because I have a certain taste in cinema, the kind of films which I watch and probably want to make someday, and there are certain kinds of film which gets produced in the industry. I wasn't satisfied with my production job. I wanted to switch into assistant directing. I even got a job offer, but I didn't want to leave Dharma because it's a good place to grow to. But sooner or later, I thought it's not about the money. If I was in it for the money, I was it for my own sense of satisfaction. So I took the assistant director job, even though it paid a little less, but it gave me the satisfaction which I wanted as a writer and as an assistant director.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I think this is extremely important. You say that the creative field does not give you the sense of satisfaction that you would have perhaps needed, and that satisfaction is obviously 100% required in any field. And with respect to, I think this is how I would like to wrap this episode up, trying to understand more about this really infinite sense of hollowness that a lot of people here feel today because of the COVID-19 and the kind of differences that are now being created. But there is always a sense of hope. There is always something that you look forward to. Perhaps maybe it's in your field a creative achievement that someone else has done, Scorsese or someone that you look up to. In ours is perhaps to get to a particular legal pedestal that we become relevant in our societies. With respect to that, is there someone you look up to, someone you model about, or someone you really want to be like, or someone you want to learn more and more about?
Okay, so there's this Mexican film called El Mariachi. The first time I watched a film and I said there's no way this film is made on a budget of $7,000.
Really?
Yeah, it's made by a Mexican guy called Robert Rodriguez. And since this guy comes from a very small town in Mexico and he was just passionate about films, growing up with Hollywood films, and El Mariachi came out so well, made on a budget of $7,000, that the studio offered him the second and the third part, and they offered him money and everything. So hence, Robert Rodriguez is a guy I look up to. He made Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico after it, which are the sequels of the film. I really look up to Takashi Miike and Kinji Fukasaku. These are Japanese filmmakers. I really look up to Vishal Bhardwaj and Anurag Kashyap filmmaking in India, because these are the self-made, hard-working filmmakers who made something out of nothing. Uh, Mostly I like the guys who've actually, tried to bend the rules, and it's not about breaking the rules, it's about making the new ones.
Yes.
And, there are big Hollywood directors like Denis Villeneuve and Christopher Nolan, and, they started with independent filmmaking, Quentin Tarantino, and they took the studio model, and they majorly show their films to almost the whole world.
Right.
So, that's the power of cinema, which you can, affect life through movies and theaters, and that's something, that's something I live for.
Perfect, and I think this is a very interesting idea to live by, and obviously a lot of people who would perhaps listen to this conversation would really benefit, because I know a lot of people who have these dreams and aspirations. Although law school is rather constructive with respect to the discipline that you might explore, it does give you the freedom to explore them after you graduate. And this is the kind of conversation that perhaps going to help. So thank you so much, Tanish. Thank you so much for sitting down with me for this conversation. And thank you so much for literally carrying me all the way to Mussoorie, because I've never been to Mussoorie despite living here in Uttarakhand for so many years. Come on, let's stand on the balcony and perhaps give them a little bit of a shot as to how this Mussoorie looks from the cafe that we're sitting here in right now. This guys is, we are about, how many kilometers away are we from Mussoorie? Tanish? 15. Nice. This is the shot that we have here from Mussoorie, and this looks amazing. Alright guys, that was it. This was the episode of the One Take Show. I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this episode, make sure you like, share and subscribe to the channel. If you have any suggestions or feedbacks, write them down in the comment section. Reach out to me. I would love that either way. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next time.
Yo, microphone check, make it a microphone check. Give it a microphone, I make the microphone dead. Don't step to me, newbie, I could truly be moody. I could have played the fucking
Friend of mine, Mr. Tanish Bansal. Tanish, yeah.
Ever since I was a little kid, I always look up to the One Take Show. It's been an honor to be here. I've had this podcast this podcast keeps me up at night.